Nuzlocks are a way to spice up your gameplay when you've played a particular game way too many times. For those who may have no idea what the heck a Nuzlocke even is, essentially, it is a list of self-imposed rules or restrictions to make your game more challenging. They were made popular in the Pokemon community, and I've even done a handful of them myself over the years. I thought it'd be a cool and interesting idea to try turning another one of my favorite games into a Nuzlocke, Baldur's Gate 3. The classic rules of a Nuzlocke are as follows. Number 1. You can only catch the first Pokemon of each route/city. Now, obviously, there are no Pokemon to catch. Also, there's a limited number of companions we can recruit, so we can only use them. This also means no hirelings. Number 2. If a Pokemon faints, they must be released or permanently boxed. This one we can use. I cannot use Revivify at all, which means if a companion is unalived, they stay that way. Number 3, you must nickname your Pokemon. Well, I'll just ignore this one. Those are the basics, but this is hardcore, right? This adds additional rules. Number 4, you cannot heal in battle. This one is easy to transfer over. I cannot use any healing spells or healing potions while in combat. Number 5, I cannot level up past the next gym leader's ace. I didn't really consider this one because I kind of forgot these bosses technically do have levels too. That being said though, I didn't go level grinding either, so this was more of an unofficial rule. 3 rules don't seem to be hardcore enough. So let's add some more Baldur's Gate 3 specific rules. Number 6, it's hardcore after all, so I must play on honor mode. If I succeed, then this will actually be the final achievement I need before having every single achievement in Baldur's Gate 3. No pressure. Number 7, I must use the character's original class. Now, I did have it as an option to be able to multi-class with the condition that the original class is the majority, but I ended up just keeping everyone monoclass. Number 8, I cannot respec anyone with withers. This means the choices I make with feats, spells, or subclasses are final once chosen. Number 9, finally, once I leave an act, I cannot return to any previous acts. This is to prevent me from going into Act 2 early to get better equipment/items, and coming back to Act 1 and stomping the enemies there. Quick side note, that Nuzlocks can be as hard or simple as you want. They are, at the end of the day, self-imposed rules. You can have as many or as little of these rules as you want. There we go. Now that sounds more hardcore to me. With my rules established, it's time to find out if I can beat Baldur's Gate 3 as a hardcore Nuzlocke. To begin our journey, we're going to need a victim. Hero. We have Garrison here, the half-orc monk. After living most of his life in solitude, he was ready to put himself out there to meet new people and possibly find the love of his life. Before he could really meet anyone, he was kidnapped by some mind flayers and infected with one of their tadpoles. Luckily for him, the mind flare ship was attacked, giving him a chance to escape. During his escape, he comes across a little brain monster. He's always wanted a pet, so welcome to the team, us. A bit further ahead, Garrison meets another individual, Lae'zel. Turns out, she's infected too, so they decide to team up to escape and beat up a few imps that are waiting for them in the next room. After dealing with those runs, they came across a woman still trapped in a pod. Garrison tells her he'll find her a way out. He goes snooping around to find a rune. Now that she's free, she introduces herself as Shadowheart and joins the team. In the following room, they come across a squabble between a mind flayer and a Cambion.
Don't mind me, I'ma just grab my stuff and leave. Excuse me, please.
Garrison finds himself waking up on a beach after the crash, alone again. Thankfully, he finds Shadowheart and wakes her up to continue moving forward.
Ricky, wake up! I don't like this!
They see some more intellect devourers, unfortunately none of which are us. Garrison misses his squishy boy. They chose to scale up the cliffside to avoid them for now. Garrison spots a suspicious hole in a rock. Suddenly, an arm reaches out asking for help. He grabs hold and yanks out whatever is tethered to this arm. When Garrison locks eyes with this man from the rock, he feels something he hasn't felt in a long time. Love. He introduces himself as Gale and joins the team. It's time to search for more allies. Garrison hears someone calling for help. A pale elf claiming he sees another intellect devour. Is it us? Nope, it was a trick. This elf is convinced Garrison had something to do with his kidnapping, but he's able to convince this elf that they're on the same side. He apologizes and introduces himself as Astarion, then joins the team. Now that the team outnumbers the intellect devourers they saw earlier, it was time to pay them a visit. They were disposed of fairly easily. Soon after, they finally find Lae'zel. She's been trapped by some tieflings. Garrison convinces them to leave so that he can rescue Lae'zel. She joins the team, but goes to wait at camp as the party's a little too full. There's some commotion nearby, so the party goes to investigate. It turns out to be a goblin raid. The party helps the people fighting against the goblins. There was only one casualty on the allies' side, so all in all, pretty good. Inside, they find out that this is a druid's grove, and the tieflings here are refugees. The substitute leader of the grove doesn't want them there, so Garrison needs to convince her otherwise. On the way, Garrison meets a man who heroically jumped into the fray during the goblin attack. He introduces himself as Will. He explains he's after someone named Karlach. Garrison agrees to help find her. Shadowheart returns to camp for now to make room for Will. With a little hop, skip, and a jump, we find Karlach. They find out that she isn't at all what Will thought. After settling that, she joins the team. She does want to challenge some paladins that were after her also, so Garrison tells her that they'll get around to it.
Let's do it.
Fuck yes!
Returning to the grove, the party meets a tiefling named Damon. He's able to help Karlach with her mechanical heart. They also meet an old lady named Auntie Ethel. She claims she has a solution to the tadpole problem, but something feels off about her. Anyways, Garrison stumbles across a caged goblin about to be executed by a tiefling. He steps in front of the arrow to protect the goblin. Doing this caught Gale's attention. He was impressed by what he did for the goblin and decided to share a personal story of his.
And one time, at band camp,
After that, Garrison goes on ahead to meet the druid leader, Kaga. Inside their cave, the group sees that Kaga has a tiefling child under arrest for attempting to steal a precious idol. Garrison convinces her to have mercy and let her go as they have the idol back. She does, reluctantly. Gale was impressed once again. The vibes are vibing. He opens up and tells Garrison that he has this condition that can only be controlled through consuming magical items. Garrison would do anything for this handsome man, so obviously he agrees to help him get magic items. Kaga wants the tieflings gone and wants the party to guide them out. Garrison will have to go deal with the goblin issue to make sure the roads are safe to travel on. Before leaving, he makes a quick pit stop to meet another druid named Nettie. Garrison heard she could possibly help with the tadpole, but it was another unfortunate dead end. She does tell the party that their actual leader, Halsin, has been possibly captured by these goblins. Seeing how Garrison was heading over there anyways, he agrees to help find him. The party's business with the grove has concluded for now, so they venture back towards an old building Garrison saw earlier. There are a few bandits lurking around, but Garrison convinces them to leave peacefully. Everyone was feeling a little run down, so they agreed to call it a day. That night, the party had an uninvited guest, a Cambion named Mizora. She's Will's patron. Apparently, it was her orders to track down and kill Karlach. But seeing how he didn't kill her and let her live, Mizora punishes him by turning him into a devil, horns and all. The next day, the party continues their business in the old building. Inside, the party swiftly dispatches more bandits as well as some skellies that seem to be protecting something. Turns out, they were guarding a tomb, and inside that tomb was a peculiar being named Withers. After answering some questions, he says that they'll be seeing him later.
Okay.
During the next long rest, Garrison's spidey senses kick in, waking him up to Astarion trying to bite his neck. He learns of the elf's true nature and allows him to take a small sip of blood. Just this once though, as this neck belongs to Gale now. Continuing their journey, the party comes across a mysterious fancy man that teleports them to an even fancier dining hall. He reveals himself to be a devil named Raphael. Garrison wants no part in a devil's dealing.
Not today, Satan. Not today.
So, Raphael sends the party back. Up the road a bit further, Garrison convinces a pair of siblings to not seek revenge on an owlbear for killing their brother. After the siblings left, there was a strange pull coming from the body. On the dead body was another Mind Flare tadpole. Garrison decides to pocket it for now. Soon, the party comes across a poor little puppy who is seemed to have lost his owner. Aww. Garrison feels sorry for the pooch and lets him take a whiff of his scent to find their camp when he's ready to move on. Close by, they find a cave that houses the owlbear that killed the guy from earlier and her cub. Garrison was lucky enough to get the mama owlbear to let them leave in peace. After that, Garrison pulls out his mask of disguise. He disguises himself as a drow elf so that he and the party can just walk right through the desecrated village nearby. They come across a deep gnome that has been strapped to a windmill. Garrison scares off the bullies and helps the gnome down. He introduces himself as Barkus and lets them take his backpack. Nice. A bit later, Gale starts to keel over. Worried, Garrison checks on him and asks what's going on. Gale explains that his condition is acting up. Garrison reaches in his pack for a magic item to give to him. His condition is satisfied for now. The party traverses further on and finally reaches the goblin camp. Thankfully, with Garrison's disguise still active, the group is able to just walk on through with ease. Upon arriving at camp, Garrison notices Volo performing rather poorly. He is then taken inside the temple. Before following him inside, Garrison also notices the owlbear cub from earlier. He plays a little mini game to try and play for the cub's freedom. Garrison does win, but the goblin lady only gives him gold for winning. He'll be back for the baby later. In the meantime, the party makes their way inside the temple. There, Garrison saves a man from being tortured, and then receives a blessing from Loviatar. He sees one of the goblin leaders, Priestess Gut. She wants to brand Garrison with the absolute sigil. Thinking it might be useful to blend in, Garrison lets her. She then wants him to follow her back to her chamber for further discussion.
What?
Once there, Garrison takes a sip of some sleepy time juice, just to wake up locked up in her dungeon. Sorry miss, you're not his type, but thanks for the idea to try later with Gale. Luckily for Garrison, a guardian angel arrives to rescue him, sent by some mysterious employer. Now that he's free, he's able to regroup with the rest of his gang. They find Volo locked up in a cage and convinces the goblin that was keeping him to set him free. Volo flees back to camp to chat later. Some more snooping, and the party finds a group of goblins chucking rocks at a poor innocent bear locked in a cage. Why do goblins hate bears so much? Anyways, Garrison doesn't stand for that and gets rid of all the goblins. The bear was strong enough to bust himself out and help with the fight. Once the battle is over, the bear suddenly transforms, and Garrison's eyes widen seeing a gorgeous hunk of a man emerge. Garrison has to remind himself that his heart belongs to Gale. He introduces himself as Halsin, leader of the Emerald Grove. Garrison tells him to wait there, while the rest of them take out the remaining goblin leaders. The next on the hit list was the drow Minthara. She was handled very easily. Gale tricked her into walking onto a shaky bridge over a chasm. Once the target was in place, Garrison fired an arrow at the bridge, causing it and her to fall into the abyss. 2 down, 1 to go. The final target was the hobgoblin, Jar Ragslan. the party finds himself questioning the corpse of a mind player. Once he finishes his questioning, Gale pulls the same trick, but this time getting ready to push Ragzlin along with as many of his minions into the chasm below filled with spiders. With the target in place, Gale casts Thunderwave and no one got pushed down. Shit. Gale rushes into his bag to drink a potion of speed to give him one more try before Ragzlin would surely lay the hurt on him. With a second burst of Thunderwave, it worked. The biggest threat was taken off the board, for now. The rest of the battle was still pretty rough, but the party managed to pull through unscathed. Most of the other goblins inside the temple heard all the commotion and joined the fray too. Luckily, the party was able to handle them as well. Soon, the whole place was goblin-free. Garrison goes back to tell Halsin the good news. Halsin tells them that he'll meet them back at the Grove. But before heading back to the Grove, it was time for a well-deserved rest. Garrison wasn't feeling too hot and was taking a moment to rest. However, Lae'zel was a bit too eager to end it all. He convinced her to take a chill pill for now. Once Garrison finally falls asleep, he gets a little meet and greet with some rando claiming to be some sort of guardian. Garrison will keep an eye on this one. It was now time to clear out the rest of the goblin camp, seeing how their leaders have been dealt with. It was pretty easy for the most part, until... Now, Chad and I agreed that I was allowed to pick up Astarion and it would not count against the healing in combat rule. Thankfully this was the case, as Garrison would have fallen unconscious too.
Yep, you're a lucky luck boy.
A valuable lesson I learned watching perhaps my favorite BG3 content creator, Morgana Evelyn, play Honor Mode, was that your ego must be checked at the door. Retreat was definitely the option in this case. With a safe retreat, Astarion and Garrison live to see another day. During the long rest, this guardian shows up again to yap some more. The gang decides to take a breather at the Emerald Grove before jumping headfirst back into battle. Here, Garrison tells Zevlor that the leaders have been taken care of. Halsin disciplines Kaga, and the party gets some nice rewards for their efforts. Also, Astarion may have almost gotten into a little bit of trouble with the druids after trying to get the idol of Sylvanas for Maul.
It was at this moment that he knew. He fucked up.
Luckily, he got out unscathed and received the Ring of Protection from Maul. With those out of the way, round 2 of the Goblin Camp fight was about to be underway.
Round 2. Fight!
This time, it went a lot more smoothly. On the way back to the Emerald Grove for celebrations, the gang stopped in the Blighted Village and stumbled across an underground cellar that contained some pretty cool items, including Gale's new best friend, Fork.
How?
Gale's belly was soon aching for more magic items, which Garrison was happy to supply him with some. After sharing a magic item with him, Gale decides to share more of his history with this condition. Garrison feels deeply for this poor wizard's story, and at that moment, Garrison decides to stay by Gale's side.
Aww.
Just before leaving the Blighted Village, the party hears some commotion going on to the south. Upon further inspection, it turns out to be Auntie Ethel being harassed by 2 young men. Garrison naturally defends the old lady, and the 2 men attack. Once they've been handled, Auntie thanks the party and invites them over to her place. A cup of tea does sound lovely, so why not take a quick detour to her place? What Auntie didn't mention was that her place was kind of in the middle of a swamp. The party fights off some angry little redcaps nearby. After getting a little lost, they find themselves fighting a group of mud mephits and a couple woodwoads. The gang rests up a bit, and Garrison remembers the Paladins of Tyr that he was supposed to help Karlach with. He feels bad and leads the party up to where they were stationed. Time for another Gale and Garrison team up. Gale tricks each member of this group out one by one to where Garrison stands ready to yeet them off the nearby cliff.
Bye-bye.
Mission accomplished. On the journey back, the party accidentally stumbles across some hyenas that don't look too good. They were put out of their misery and agony.
I'm sorry, little one.
Up ahead, Garrison notices some smoke nearby and rushes over to check it out. The group finds a handful of flaming fists trying to break down a door to a burning building. Garrison, of course, offers his assistance.
This is Sparta!
Running inside the inferno, Garrison was able to help rescue a woman named Counselor Floric and a man named Benrin. The former tasked the group to help find Duke Ravengard, and Gale gets a cool new staff. The party returned to the swamp for a brief pit stop to deal with this weirdo that was trying to stalk Astarion. Garrison heard some rumors of some beasts on the Risen Road, so naturally they had to go investigate. Turns out, there were some hyenas and gnolls that the party dealt with fairly easily. This group wasn't the only one, however. Garrison heard some commotion around the corner. Suddenly, Gale starts having this weird headache upon approaching one of the gnolls. His tadpole was connecting with her. She's also infected. With some support from his trusted partner Garrison, Gale was able to convince the gnoll to turn on her allies.
You are mine now. You belong to me.
After the slugfest, Gale felt uncomfortable using the tadpole again, so Garrison took over for him. He convinces this gnoll to, dispose of herself. Inside the cave the gnolls were trying to get into were two suspicious men. The one man, Rugen, tells Garrison a secret password to get to their hideout. Garrison knows this man and his people are trouble, so he takes it upon himself to deal with these men as well. They were transporting a locked, trapped chest, and Garrison knew there was something dangerous hidden inside. He would deal with this troublesome group, but first, him and the others needed a rest. Besides, the Tiefling group had been waiting for them to celebrate after all.
I'm ready to party with.
Back at camp, everyone celebrates, and Garrison takes a moment to get to know the leader of this Emerald Grove, Halsin. Garrison feels a spark there for sure, but right now his heart belongs to Gale. Speaking of Gale, he makes his way over to the wizard to chat some more. Gale shares his appreciation for his continuous support and kindness toward him. He wishes to share something with Garrison once the celebrations quiet down. Garrison's very eager to see what Gale has in store for him. Later that evening, once the noise and party has settled, Garrison meets up with Gale. Gale shares a magic lesson with Garrison, and for someone who doesn't use magic, Garrison did alright. The weave surrounds both of these men, and the two share a beautiful, tender moment together. Before anything can really happen, the weave dissipates, and both of these men now know their feelings for each other are mutual. After a wonderful evening, it was time to get back to some investigating. The gang finds the hideout and tells the guard the password to get in.
Penis!
Once inside, Garrison has a face-to-face with the group's leader, Zaris. She lets them in without any trouble, in exchange for information about their cargo. Garrison notices these people are definitely sketchy, with what seems to be stolen art as well as a captive artist. He knows what needs to be done, so he makes the first strike and starts an all-out brawl. With the element of surprise on their side, the party was able to clear out the entire base and save the captive artist. Garrison even spared some coin for the artist's travel back home to Baldur's Gate. Further inspecting the hideout, the group finds a hidden entrance into the Underdark. Traversing through the Underdark, the group fight their way through a few minotaurs with ease and begin to hear disembodied voices.
Hey, how you doing, little mama? Let me whisper in your ear.
These voices, they soon find out, belong to Myconans. Their leader wants to have a chat. Among the mushroom people are a woman whose husband hasn't come back yet, a hobgoblin with a mind flare companion, and a gnome who has been poisoned. It was time to meet their leader, Sovereign Spa. He tasked the group to deal with some problematic Dwagar by the beach. There are no complaints from anyone in the group to take down more bad people. On the way out, however, Sovereign Glut requests to join them, but Garrison feels uneasy around him and tells him to sit tight. Along the way, Garrison finds the missing husband. He saves him from explosive mushrooms and sends him back on his way to the Myconid colony. Soon enough, they arrive at the beach and take care of the Dwagar lurking around. They aren't people to mess around with. Thankfully, they were dealt with fairly swiftly. Garrison was ready to head back, but he could swear he heard chanting. They follow this odd sound down into what seems to be some sort of ritual by some Kuatoa. These fish were being deceived by another one of these redcaps from the swamp. Unfortunately, the Kuatoas were in too deep and combat ensued. It was a tough fight for sure. Astarion had even fallen unconscious at one point. With some determination, the group managed to finish up the fight without any fatalities. Who knew fish had such a bite to them? Above their lair, there appeared to be a magic tower worth checking out. After slipping past the mechanical guards outside, the group found some interesting items and supplies that the Mind Flayer Omelum needed to potentially help with the tadpoles. They also stumbled across animated armor and a big mechanical sentry named Bernard. Bernard responds well to some poetry that Garrison read on the climb up to the top of the tower. This keeps the group safe from combat. Returning back to the colony, Omelum attempts to help remove the tadpole, but he was unable. Glut wants to see the fallen Dwagar, so Garrison obliges. Once they arrive at the beach, Glut tells the group he plans on overthrowing his kind host, Spa. Traitor! Garrison could not believe such treachery and ungratefulness. After he refuses to be a traitor, Glut attacks, and the group puts him down pretty easily. The party once again returns to tell Spa everything, from the defeat of the Dwagars to the attempted coup from Glut. He thanks the group and gives them a few useful items. Spa has one last request: to take the head of an evil drow named Nier. Consider it done. Using the boat left on the beach from the Dwagar, the party crosses the waters and gets pulled up on by some more Dwagar. It was best to have no witnesses. The party finally arrives in the abandoned forge. They scoped out the area and found the spot where Nier was trapped. Garrison had to free him if he were to complete Spa's task. Once he did that, a fight broke out with Nier and the Dwagar helping him. This fight was rough, to say the least. Thankfully, the party was able to clutch it out and secure Nier's head. The deep gnomes being enslaved were now free to go. Before leaving the abandoned forge, the party decides to explore some more. They end up finding a powerful mech named Grim. Yeah, they kind of bullied him. Anyways, the head gets delivered to Spa as promised, and the deep gnomes are reunited with Thala. The party has finished their business down under. So they return to the surface to finally give Auntie Ethel a visit. To their surprise, Auntie Ethel reveals herself to be a hag. They chase after her down in her lair. The few forced labors she has guarding her lair were not that difficult to get past. They sneak down to the main part of her base and see that she has Mayrina trapped in a cage. Garrison was not about to let anything happen to her. As long as they were able to stay out of Auntie Ethel's line of sight, she will be easy to take out. Once Auntie was low enough, she tried to trick the group into thinking there were two Mayrinas. Gale was not going to be tricked so easily and broke her illusion. Knowing she was beat, Auntie offers a deal. Take a boost in power for letting her keep Mayrina and being left alive. Garrison makes a counteroffer and instead demands Auntie give him both the power-up and Mayrina. Reluctantly, she gives in and vanishes. Mayrina is upset that her deal with Auntie is now broken. However, Garrison finds a special wand in Auntie's room.
What did he say?
Turns out, it has the power to revive her dead husband. But unfortunately, only as a zombie. Close enough? Garrison gives Mayrina control of the reborn zombie and they take their leave. It was finally time to head on through the mountain pass. Just as the party arrives at the bridge, a red dragon flies overhead kinda spooking Garrison. They see a group of Githyanki nearby. Not wanting to really start anything with them, Garrison is able to get them to leave without a fight. Phew. That night, the owlbear cub returns to the camp and finally decides to join the party officially. The next morning, disaster struck. Astarion was being a bit greedy by trying to steal from Volo. But unfortunately, Volo turns his head, spotting the thief in action. This turns the goodest of boys, Will, Halson, Scratch, and the newly joined owlbear cub. Crap. There was one possible way out of this mess. Invisibility. Or that was until Volo used C invisibility to spot Gale and Karlach. They had to tough it out for a bit longer until they were able to take out Volo. Once he had been taken care of, Gale and Karlach turned invisible once again to finally end combat. Those who turned against the party were only slightly miffed. Garrison smoothed it over with Halson with a bit of coin. R.I.P. Volo. After avoiding that crisis, the party makes their way forward down the mountain pass. They run into some undead creatures. This makes Garrison worry about what lies ahead for him and his friends. The undead were taken care of with no casualties. Just beyond that awaits a mysterious wizard that Gale recognizes as Alminster. Alminster returns to the camp with a group to give Gale a message/gift from Mystra. He bestows Gale with the ability to control the orb in his chest at will, along with the message to use it to destroy the Absolute. Garrison is appalled that Mystra would task him to sacrifice himself. Garrison is now determined to take down the Absolute himself to spare the man he's fallen so deeply for. The party comes across a temple that is currently being used as a hideout for the Githyanki. Time to see what they're up to. Garrison uses his mask once again to disguise himself as a fellow Githyanki. This made passage much easier. Once inside, the party makes their way to the on-site doctor. She says she can get rid of the tadpole in Garrison's head if he steps into her super, not scary or suspicious, machine. He obliges. The machine starts up and Garrison quickly learns that this is not going to work, so he bails. Garrison isn't the happiest being tricked. The doctor is about to get reinforcements, but Garrison wasn't having any of that and swiftly takes her out. It wouldn't be long before the other Giths find her, so it was time to go room to room, eliminating the rest of them. There was one last room left to clear out, and this was going to be the most difficult. The Inquisitor is not someone you take lightly. The Githyanki in general are no pushovers, but the Inquisitor has some nasty tricks up his sleeve. Party gets the jump on them with a Sleet Storm spell, which thankfully knocks the Inquisitor prone. Astarion and Garrison unleash big damage on public enemy number 1. When it got to Karlach's turn, it was surely going to be over for him. Little did she know that one of those underlings used her body as a shield for the Inquisitor. When it got around to Gale's turn, he rips a magic missile into him to guarantee damage. It wasn't quite enough, so they just have to hope the Inquisitor doesn't do anything too wild on his turn. Thankfully, he didn't. Astarion is able to finally neutralize the threat. The rest of the underlings weren't too difficult to handle. The party was about to celebrate their victory when Vlaakith herself manifested. She sends them through the artifact to deal with the person inside. Garrison meets with the Dream Guardian that he's been seeing lately. He tells Garrison that he is on his side and that Vlaakith lies. Garrison believes him and proceeds to leave the artifact. Garrison heads back to camp to tell Lae'zel everything that's happened in the crash. Later that evening, Kithrak Voss shows up to camp. He asks the group to help him defeat Vlaakith, and they agree. Voss gifts Garrison with a special item to help them detect the presence of other Githyanki. The next morning, it was time to travel into the Shadowlands. As the party wanders through the darkness, they come across a group of Harpers being attacked by shadow creatures. Of course, Garrison steps in immediately. They weren't all that difficult. After a brush with the undead, Gale feels a sort of rush of emotions and feelings. He tells Garrison how much his feelings have developed for him. This makes Garrison very happy to hear. They both agree that right now was probably not the best time to dive deeper into that, just yet. They follow the Harpers to the Last Light Inn. There, they're met with the leader of the Harpers, Jaheira. She's not too friendly at first, but thanks to Maul vouching for the group, she lets them in. Garrison sees Demon and brings Karlach over to see him. He's able to use the infernal iron Garrison found to temporarily fix Karlach's machine heart. Yippee! He warns her that she must return to Avernus sometime soon, but she's not too worried about that right now. He's also able to forge a pair of nice gloves and a set of armor using the leftover infernal iron. Inside the inn, Garrison learns of a few things. He learns from Parkus that Wolbrin, his best friend, is locked up inside Moonrise Towers. From Alfira that some of the tieflings have also been locked up there. From one of the Fists that a man named Art is under some sort of spell. And from Jaheira that Ketheric Thorm is hiding away in Moonrise Towers. On their way out of the inn, Garrison overhears a group of Harpers that plan on ambushing a convoy headed to Moonrise. The party offers their assistance with this job.
Some of you may die, but it's a sacrifice I am willing to make.
The convoy appears, and Garrison signals the Harpers to attack. The Drider Karnas is the prime target. He isn't going to be easy to take out. So, Gale decides to polymorph him into a sheep to take him off the board for now. With Karnas on timeout, it's super easy to deal with his lackeys. After they were disposed of, it was now a 10v1. It didn't take much longer to end the fight for good.
This is Sparta!
Garrison then heard something coming from the Moonlight Lantern. Upon further inspection, there's a pixie locked inside. Garrison sets her free, and she gifts the party with a blessing that protects them from the Shadow Curse. The torch once again becomes irrelevant. As the party explores more of the darkness, they come across a small child that seems a bit off. His name is Oliver. He wants to play hide and seek. So Garrison goes along with it. Gale finds him easily with the help of the See Invisibility spell. Oliver pouts and wants to play again, but this time he invites 3 shadow creatures: Mommy, Daddy, and Doggy. The group is supposed to hide from them while trying to find Oliver. Unfortunately, Astarion gets caught. This means it's time to fight. The party's able to handle them with little issues, which is nice because these shadow creatures, mainly Mommy and her sleep spell, can be super annoying to deal with. Once the fight is over, Oliver concedes and gives Garrison a ring. While the party travels toward Moonrise, Garrison hears some commotion up ahead. It's Roland. He's being attacked by some shadow creatures. The party jumps in and takes out the shadows before Roland gets too injured. After saving him, Garrison sends him back to Last Light Inn and convinces him to just let them rescue his siblings. It's not even a few steps further when Garrison gets a surprise visit from Will's patron, Mizora. She wants them to get an asset from deep within Moonrise. Garrison agrees, but on one condition. She ends Will's pact. She reluctantly agrees. After that's settled, the party runs into Arabella. She's out looking for her parents. Garrison tells her that he'll find them. She thanks him and makes her way to camp. Not too far from there, Raphael shows up again. He wants the party to defeat an enemy inside the Shar Temple ahead. Garrison makes another deal. He will do this for him, and in exchange, he must decipher the scars on Astarion's back. He thinks it's a fair deal and agrees. Garrison will come back to this later. For now, there were bigger fish to fry. The first fish on the chopping block is Malice Thorm. Garrison interrupts a surgery that Malice and his assistants are performing. Garrison is able to convince the assistants to practice on each other, leaving Malice all by himself. A 4 versus 1 sounds pretty nice. The one thing Garrison didn't expect was Malice being able to revive his assistants one at a time. Luckily, Malice was only able to do this trick once before he fell.
Bye-bye!
After he was defeated, Garrison finds a battered lute that could possibly help wake Art. He also finds the remains of Arabella's parents. The next target is Garangoth Thorm. Karlach is able to sneak up behind her as she's looking out the open window. With a swift Sparta kick,
This is Sparta!
Garangoth went flying down below. It only takes 2 more attacks from launching the returning pike at her to take her out.
Easy peasy lemon squeeze.
Garrison is now laser focused on taking down the Thorm family and the whole Moonrise Towers in hopes to finally put an end to the Absolute's tyranny. Garrison now sets his sights on Visible Thorm. Unfortunately, Garrison's attempt to drink Visible under the table fails, leading into a fight. This was more than fine though. Garrison leads him and his undead patrons outside to the rest of the party. Garrison's sure that Visible's big old dump truck booty couldn't get through the perfectly placed tree roots. However, Garrison didn't realize that Visible could still reach his friends. Gale takes massive damage, which worries Garrison. After some more back and forth, and with some better distancing, the party was able to pull through. Garrison cannot forgive these monsters for hurting the ones he loves. Back at camp, Garrison shares the bad news with Arabella about her parents. She needs some time to cool off and process this all. After resting, it's time to wake Art. Halsin joins Garrison to ask about a boy named Nathaniel. The loot Garrison found does indeed wake Art. He then describes to Halsin a place where Nathaniel is trapped. Halsin asks the party to help him retrieve the young boy. The party meets Halsin by the water, where he opens a portal to find Nathaniel. He explains to the party that they must protect the portal while he goes in to get Nathaniel. Garrison has an idea to set up a barrier made of boxes that were just laying around the inn. Once Halsin enters the portal, a swarm of shadows and undead start to attack. The wood wall will hold off any creatures wanting to walk up to it, so it was a priority to take down any ranged attackers. Gale helps set up a wall of fire that will deal massive damage to any creature that tries to cross it. This is a test of endurance, and Garrison refuses to let any darkness win. Both walls held long enough for Halsin to return safely with Nathaniel. Garrison heads back to camp to meet up with Halsin again. He's very thankful for the help and becomes an official member of the party. Before leaving, Halsin explains that Nathaniel is missing a part of himself. Garrison thinks of that odd boy Oliver. It's possible that he could be that missing part. The party finds Oliver again and questions him. It turns out that Oliver is Nathaniel's missing piece. However, he's not going to come easily and runs away. Garrison tracks Oliver and finds him surrounding himself with more shadow creatures to protect him. This fight could have easily been very rough, but thankfully a well-placed wall of fire was more than enough to defeat Oliver's shadow minions. Oliver finally concedes and goes back to camp to be with Halsin and Nathaniel. With that taken care of, Garrison is ready for a jailbreak. The party heads back to Moonrise. Inside, they meet a halfling named Lancella. She's trying to tame some gnolls. Garrison takes this opportunity to sever her connection to them. They get their revenge on her for trying to control them. Garrison convinces the gnolls that they are friends, not food.
Fish are friends, not food.
The next room over was Ketheric Thorm. Garrison could feel the anger bubbling inside. It took every ounce of his strength to not start a fight right there and now. They were holding some sort of trial for these goblins. One of them even tries to take Catherick out themselves. However, nothing she did seemed to have any effect on him. Catherick's disciple Zarel commands the group to finish off these goblins. Garrison obliges, just to keep their suspicions low of the party. The party heads upstairs to follow Zarel and Catherick. Zarel tells Garrison they've lost contact with someone named Balthazar. She orders Garrison to go find him. Oh, trust and believe Garrison will. But first, some snooping. Inside Balthazar's room, Garrison finds a secret room with special ingredients. Gale's able to use these to create a shadow lantern. Garrison doesn't want to leave the tower just yet without taking out Zarel. Garrison gets the jump on her and she actually drops like a sack of potatoes. Now they can move on to the jailbreak. Down in the prison, Garrison takes out the scrying eyes that are floating around, as well as the guards down there too. He then finally meets Walburn and gives him some tools to help break the prisoners out. The prisoners take a boat to the last light inn where they'll be safe. The party travels back to meet them there. Everyone's now reunited with their loved ones. With the jailbreak successfully finished, the party heads over to Shar's temple. They make their way past the entrance puzzle and come across a group of skellies fighting a group of animated armors. The battle ends fairly quickly and the remaining skellies take off. They follow them to where Balthazar is residing. Garrison decides that this was not their fight, so he gets Gale to open Balthazar's door and let him and his skellies fight off the animated armors that appear. Gale slips out and the party leaves to go do some exploring elsewhere.
A few moments later.
Upon returning to Shar's temple, the winner of the fight is the animated armors! With them being weakened, the time to strike is now. This fight wasn't the easiest and Astarion had a close call. Thankfully, the party pulled through without any casualties. After looting all of Balthazar's things, there's a few trials Garrison needs to pass in order to find this night song that Balthazar's after. The first two trials, the soft step and the self-same trials, are very easy to complete. The last one, the faith leap trial, is the most dangerous. If the person attempting this trial fails 3 times, they die outright. This could be detrimental. So, Garrison takes no chances. He has Astarion cheese this trial by using the fly spell to get to the end. Each trial completed grants Garrison an umbral gem, which will be used to traverse further down into the temple. The party stops by the library and picks up a special spear there. The next task is to deal with Raphael's target. Garrison finds the devil Yrgir. This is who Raphael once dealt with. Yrgir is trapped in the temple until he can fulfill his contract. He's been sent to kill something and hasn't been able to figure it out. Garrison takes this opportunity to convince him it's his minions keeping him from completing the contract. Yrgir falls for it and banishes them, but he's still stuck. Garrison tries to get Yrgir to get rid of the displacer beast that's lurking around. Unfortunately, his love for the displacer beast is stronger than Garrison's words, leading into a fight. It was another close call, but thankfully they only had to deal with the 2 of them. Their reward is a 4th umbral gem. With all 4 umbral gems acquired, the party's now able to dive deep into the temple. Before entering a sacred pool, Garrison feels it necessary to bring Shadowheart along. With her accompanying Garrison now, they make their way in. At the bottom awaits an Aasimar named Aelin. She is the night song. Garrison convinces Shadowheart to spare her. Reluctantly, she does. Aelin unleashes her holy fury upon Moonrise. Garrison hurries everyone along to join up with her. The shadow curse must be lifted and Catherick must fall. Shadowheart stays at camp and instead of Astarion rejoining the group, Halsin takes his place. When the party reaches Moonrise, Jaheira is there with her harpers ready to help out. Storming Moonrise starts off pretty well. Garrison's new Knoll friends are there to help out too. Soon enough though, some of these zealots were not gonna go down without a fight. They were pretty problematic, and it was a hard fought fight for sure. Thankfully, the party squeaked out a victory without anyone falling. The lower floors are clear, so up next was the upper floor. That fight was a lot easier than the all-out brawl downstairs. All that stands between Garrison and Ketherick is a metal door leading to the rooftop. Up on the roof, Aelin joins the party to take on Ketherick. Garrison rushes to Ketherick to try and gain an upper hand by stunning him. However, it was a bit reckless and Ketherick retaliates with a powerful smite attack. Gale notices and creates a sleet storm that knocks Ketherick prone, giving Garrison an edge. This is what he needs as his next stunning strike works, leaving Ketherick vulnerable. Garrison lays into him and Gale unleashes a lightning bolt on him as well. Aelin wants in on the action, but as she approaches him, he starts to retreat and captures her once again. He leaves his skellies to try to finish the job. They're no trouble whatsoever. With the battle now over, Garrison decides to head back to camp to grab some supplies. Preparations are finished, so they can now follow Ketherick into the bowels of Moonrise Towers. The party goes room to room, clearing out all the enemies in sight. And in doing so, they find Mizora herself is the asset she was talking about that was locked up in Moonrise. Garrison frees her and she thanks him. She adds that she will free Will in 6 months, which isn't the deal, but now is not the time to deal with that. The final spot left to check has an elevator to a room where Ketherick is hiding. Upon entering it, the party sees he's not alone. He's with a woman named Orin, a man named Gortash, and an elder brain. Gale says he must activate the orb now to end all of this. Garrison doesn't want Gale to sacrifice himself, as he still believes there's another way. Gale puts his trust in him and stands down. Gale tries to sneak by Ketherick to release Aelin, but he's caught, so combat begins. The top priority is taking out the Mind Flayer accompanying them. Once that was dealt with, it was on to free Aelin. With her now in the fight, the party could now focus on taking down Ketherick. He went down almost too easy for Garrison, but that was because Ketherick had one final trick up his sleeve. He tosses himself into a pit and rises as the Apostle of Merkel. Good thing Garrison also has a trick up his sleeve. Lots of explosives. Karlach sets them up and Gale sets them off. This takes out 2/3 of his health. Damn, not quite enough. From here, it's just hit him and hit him hard. After whittling him down, Garrison's able to land the final blow. Ketherick is no more. To Garrison's surprise, the Dream Guardian shows up and tells the party they need to collect the Netherstones from Ketherick, Orin, and Gortash. Well, 1 down, 2 more to go. Now that their business is finished, the party's able to use a newly created portal back up to Moonrise Tower. There, Gale tells Garrison that he wants to stop at the library in Baldur's Gate to research more about the Netherese crown on top of the Elder Brain they saw. Consider it done. With the Shadow Curse lifted, Baldur's Gate was within reach. However, there was one last surprise laying in wait for the group. Just as they arrived at the road to Baldur's Gate, the artifact Voss gave Garrison a while back starts to activate. Githyanki are nearby. With that early warning, the party was able to get the jump on them instead. That advantage made the fight easier to win. The path's now clear and the party ventures forward. They set up camp to get some much needed rest. Little did they know, they were about to be ambushed by more Githyanki. A portal opens and combat begins. Garrison makes a break for the portal before it closes and hops inside. The rest of the party soon join him. Once inside, they find themselves back in the astral plane. However, the Githyanki have invaded this time around. After clearing a path, they find a mind flare being attacked by more Gith. The mind flare claims to be the one protecting them from the tadpole. Garrison thinks about it for a moment, but agrees to help. Garrison takes a beating, but nothing too major, thankfully. The fight's over with relative ease. Now that that's over, it was time to question the mind flare. He calls himself the Emperor, and goes on to explain some of his backstory. He offers Garrison a special tadpole to boost his abilities. Garrison contemplates it, and ultimately accepts. The party's finally able to head back to camp for a well-deserved sleep. They finally arrive in Rivington, just outside the main city. With a moment of peace, Garrison talks to Gale to discuss them as a couple. However, to Garrison's surprise, Gale thinks the connection between the two of them has faded, and it's too late to repair.
Oh, no, no.
Garrison was so wrapped up in taking down the Thorm family that he had neglected his partner. Garrison feels devastated that he made that mistake. The two decide to just stay friends. Heartbroken, Garrison finds a shoulder to cry on in the form of Halsin. The party returns to Rivington and finds a circus. Karlach notices a cheating Ginny with his prize wheel, so she calls him out. This upsets him, and he sends her to basically Jurassic Park. She's more than capable of handling herself, though. She makes it to the end where a portal awaits. She also claims a special trident as a prize for surviving the dinos. This wouldn't be the last surprise awaiting the party. As they watch the clown Dribbles perform, he claims loyalty to the Absolute and attacks. He and his goons reveal themselves to be doppelgangers. Luckily, they weren't too tricky to handle. After leaving the circus, the party arrives at a temple. There seems to be a murder mystery afoot. Garrison questions Father Lorgan's corpse to get some answers. More answers can be found later underground. Further investigation leads the group to more doppelgangers. They dispatch them fairly easily too. Garrison questions one of these corpses to learn that someone named Dolor had killed Father Lorgan. Good to know. The underground tunnel leads to a beach. Nearby, Garrison finds Wolburn's hideout. He gives Garrison a powerful bomb to take out the steel watch. Good to have, just in case. Moving along the beach, the party comes across warring thieves guilds. The group decides to side with the Nine Fingers Guild. The fight didn't last too long, and the winning guild rewarded the party for their help. With all that settled, the party gets closer to the city, but is stopped by a guard and a steel watcher.
Stop! You violated the law!
Luckily, a deep gnome swoops in to stun the steel watcher, allowing the party to slip by. The party retreats into a nearby building. Inside, they find another victim of Dolor, as well as a list of other names. The coast is clear for the party to head next door to Sharess's Caress. Here is where Garrison told Voss they'd meet up. Garrison also meets Valeria, the investigator to Father Lorgan's murder. Garrison gives her all the proof she needs to close the case. Voss is next, and he's accompanied by a familiar face, Raphael. He wants the crown on the Elder Brain in exchange for a special hammer to free Orpheus from the Emperor. Garrison doesn't trust Raphael, so he turns him down.
Nope.
With that business concluded, the party is now able to venture forward. While walking through Worm's Rock Fortress, they're stopped by Gortash. He invites the group up to his coronation. Will's dad is there doing the ceremony. Karlach wants to throw hands right now, but both Will and Garrison calm her down for now. Gortash offers an alliance and tells them that Orin has infiltrated their camp. Garrison considers it only to keep up appearances. After that sham of a ceremony finishes, the group is finally able to enter Baldur's Gate. Wandering through the city, they find Dolor. Garrison wastes no time confronting him. Battle ensues with Dolor and his crew of doppelgangers. Dolor tries to escape through a dimension door, but Gale counterspells it, keeping Dolor there. Halsin then locks him in place with the Hold Person spell. This gives Karlach and Garrison the opportunity to wail on him. The rest of the doppelgangers were not that difficult to deal with. Dolor won't be hurting anyone else again. Gale reminds Garrison that the library he wants to visit is close by. When they arrive at the library, they see a friendly face in Roland. He tells the party to go up to see his new boss and talk about the Night Song. The party meets the boss, Lorroakan. It turns out he's a nut and he wants Aelin for selfish reasons. Garrison warns Lorroakan she will not go lying down, but he doesn't care. Okay, his death wish. Garrison returns to camp briefly to grab Aelin. Once they return, it's time for the thrashing to begin. Lorroakan summons his Myrmidons to assist him. They were prime target number 1. After 3 of them had been dismantled, it was pretty safe to target Lorroakan next. Soon after Lorroakan had been fired, Roland has now been promoted to the new head honcho.
You go, Glen Coco!
While looting Lorroakan's stuff, Garrison finds a portal to the vault. He goes around taking everything he can get his greedy little paws on. This includes the book Gale wants on Karsus. Once the place had been swept clean, it was time to return to his companions. Garrison still cares for Gale and gives him the book. Gale learns that he could possibly recreate the power Karsus had. Garrison doesn't think it's safe and convinces him that it wasn't worth the risk. Gale seems disappointed, but he understands. Garrison feels there's something more going on in that head of his, but decides to drop it and move on. Traveling through the city, the party arrives at a fireworks shop. Garrison got bad vibes and knew something was wrong. Turns out, they were making bombs and putting them in children's toys. They have to be stopped. A fight broke out and it was really rough. The head of the shop, Avery, decides he will not be caught alive.
If I'm going down, I'm taking everybody with me.
He tosses out a fireball inside the shop. As expected, every explosive inside ignites and blows up the entire first floor. Karlach and Halsin are both down there. Fortunately, Karlach was able to withstand it. Halsin, however, even in his bear form, went unconscious. Garrison's heart sank and panic set in. Garrison's anger starts to swell. He goes up to the top floor to get revenge. Gale rushes down to help Halsin back up, while Karlach rushes up to give Garrison some backup. Blinded by his rage, Garrison bit off a little more than he can chew. He gets pretty banged up. Thankfully, Karlach arrives just in time to support him. They're able to survive long enough for Halsin and Gale to rejoin the fray to help finish the fight. Once the dust settles, Garrison's able to calm down, knowing Halsin is alive, and that these people's plans has been thwarted. The party returns to camp to recover from that near-death experience. Ms. Zora interrupts to talk to Will about his contract. Garrison encourages him to end it for good, so he does. Will is now a free man. Garrison then has a little bonding time with Halsin. He expresses how grateful he is that Halsin chose to stay by his side. Halsin shares the same feelings. The next evening, something odd happens with Lae'zel. She threatens the young child Yenna. Garrison tries to call her bluff, but unfortunately, she wasn't bluffing. She then reveals herself to be Orin, the shapeshifter Gortash warned them about. She tells him that she has taken Lae'zel prisoner and gives him an ultimatum. Help her betray Gortash and Lae'zel will be set free. If not, then Lae'zel will also perish. She then takes her leave. Garrison vows to end both of these tyrants. These night visits don't end there. Astarion's siblings show up to try and take Astarion as well. However, the party wasn't going to let another ally be taken. They fought off the vampires, keeping Astarion safe. The next morning, the party explored the city more. They discovered a secret hideout for the Nine Fingers Guild. Inside, they find Mollis safe and sound. They also meet with the leader of the guild, Nine Fingers Keen. She explains that the Stone Lord is actually Jaheira's friend, Minsc. Jaheira requests her to let them take care of Minsc. She allows it. It's time for a visit to the bank. There, they find Minsc. However, before they're able to intervene, a shadowy figure appears. It's Jaheira? She teleports them away, leaving Baal cultists to take care of the guards. Now's the time to step in. These cultists are no joke. They possess the capabilities to stun their enemies. Thankfully, the party was able to withstand their assault. With that finished, the hunt for Minsc is on. They search high and low for any trace of him. They come across some of the same cultists in the sewers, which must mean he's close by. They take care of the cultists relatively easily. Garrison finds the secret entrance, which does in fact lead to not only Minsc and Shadow Jaheira, but also the Zhentarim. Seems like there's some sort of trade going on. Guess Garrison is crashing their little party. It wasn't super difficult, luckily, but Garrison needed to be super careful dealing with Minsc himself. The party weakened him through the fight, but mainly focused their attention on the other thieves. Once Minsc was the last one standing, Halsin knocked him unconscious. Garrison wakes him up after the fight ends and asks the Emperor to grant him protection as well. He reluctantly does. Jaheira talks some sense back into Minsc, and he joins the team. There was one crucial thing Minsc needed before returning to camp. His bestest buddy, Boo. He rushes off and finds the little guy nearby. He rescues him and introduces him to the party. Welcome to the team, you two. The party returns to the Nine Fingers Guild to tell them their Stone Lord problem has been dealt with. However, when they arrived, the Zhentarim retaliated by invading and attacking the guild. They were truly pushovers though, and just kind of fell over. The Nine Fingers Guild is now allied with the party. During their exploration, the party came across a suspicious warehouse. It's guarded by wargs. After getting rid of the literal guard dogs, they find a submarine with its driver. Garrison has heard of someone from the Water Queen's house being killed by one of these monstrosities. Garrison delivers swift justice to the driver. Being curious about the machine though, Garrison checks it out. It seems like it can take them to an underwater prison, the Iron Throne. Why not check it out? While driving towards it, Gortash pops up to warn Garrison to turn around and stop snooping. Garrison doesn't like that and just ignores him. When they arrive at the Iron Throne, they quickly learn that there are innocent Gondians imprisoned there. They also find Omelum and Will's father. The party does their best to rescue everyone, but Ms. Zora interferes, preventing Will's father from making it out alive. Damn. Sorry, Will. There were 3 other Gondians who, unfortunately, couldn't make it out in time. R.I.P. One of the Gondians, Obelia, explains her father works at the Steel Watch Foundry and needs their help. Consider it done. Once back at the surface, the party makes haste to the foundry. Inside, they help protect the Gondians from enslavement. The battle wasn't easy, especially with a couple Steel Watch guards interfering. Luckily, the party manages to come through victorious. Garrison finds Obelia's father, Tubin, and explains that she is safe. He's thankful for their help and offers help in return to take down the Steel Watch for good. He explains they must go to the control room to plant a bomb. The group stealthily makes their way past some guards and make it into the main control room. Before they could set anything up, a massive Steel Watch Titan appears to stop them. This Titan was determined to end the party for good. It unleashes a barrage of explosives, which leaves hellfire in its wake. It also doesn't help that it has a few Steel Watch bodyguards assisting it. The party was being overwhelmed and pushed to their limits. Karlach ends up in the crossfires of one of these missiles, but just as she was about to get out of dodge, one of the bodyguards catches her in a burst of hellfire. Normally, fire wouldn't faze her too much, but she had already taken quite the beating. Halsin wants to rescue her, however, he starts feeling the lethargic effects of the haste potion he had used just a little bit ago and cannot move. The Titan unleashes its assault, resulting in Karlach's demise. Garrison's heart sinks. Gale, Halsin, and Garrison regroup and hunker down with a Globe of Invulnerability spell. With this, they were able to fend off their enemies' attacks while being able to dish out their own. After a bit of this, they were finally able to shut these Steel Watchers down for good. With Karlach in his heart, Garrison happily sets the bomb in place and the party makes a break for it. Waiting outside was Wolbrin. Garrison was in no mood to put up with his shit. Wolbrin wants to end the Gondians as well, but Barkus finally stands up to this angry little man and sends him on his way without a fight. With that finally over, Garrison needs a moment to process the loss of one of his good friends. Halsin was there to comfort him. The two took the chance to further strengthen their bond. Garrison suggests going to grab a drink to honor Karlach. Halsin, Gale, and Minsk join him. The party arrives at the Blushing Mermaid. However, they discover that Auntie Ethel is here, and she has a young child held captive in her stomach. Before Garrison has a chance to strike, she vanishes, leaving a handful of her redcaps to attack. They were swiftly dealt with. Halsin suggests finding a way to free the child before attacking Ethel to avoid injuring the child. Garrison agrees. As the party searches the city for answers, they end up coming across a small group of people who are also trying to end Ethel too. Garrison offers an alliance. Turns out that Mayrina had joined them, but she's been hexed and needs help. Thankfully, Gale is able to lift the hex, freeing her. It's revealed that it was one of their members that cursed Mayrina. The member Jotlo was actually a redcap in disguise. The party was able to end him very easily. As thanks, Mayrina provides Garrison with a special potion called Hag's Bane. Now that the party is equipped to deal with Ethel, it was time to infiltrate her lair and free the child. She has guards set up outside her room, so the party deals with them pretty easily. Garrison notices that the captain Ethel disguised herself as was actually there. He decides to spare her and just knock her out instead. All that was left was the hag herself. Combat starts, and it was a bit tricky between her summoning clones and her mushrooms that heal her. Halsin finds a moment with the real Ethel and throws Hag's Bane at her. This causes her to throw up the small child, freeing her.
Disgusting!
With her human shield out of the way, the party was able to give it their all. Soon enough, Ethel was finally no more. The party reunites the child with her mother. Garrison wants to go back to let Mayrina know that Ethel is finally gone.
Fuck you, Ethel, you miserable old bat!
Garrison thought of one other way to honor Karlach. Defeat Gortash. The party arrives at Worm's Crossing and is greeted by angry guards. It was a slogfest to get up to the top of the tower. Once there, the party set up an ambush outside the front door. Garrison taunts Gortash to lead him and his goons outside. As they got to the front door, it was time to unleash fire. Literally. The party was able to safely eliminate the guards and push Gortash to his limit. This causes him to go Super Saiyan. His newfound power gives him the ability to create giant spectral fists. He uses one of these fists to slap the hell out of Minsk. Garrison and Halsin took the front line together, trying to keep Gortash occupied or stunned. Gale kept Minsk up and safe with a globe of invulnerability. Minsk got knocked prone again by another of these fists, unfortunately. Garrison thought defeating Gortash would get rid of any remaining fists. However, this was not the case. Once the Fire Myrmidon landed the final blow, Garrison sees one fist left hovering over Minsk's unconscious body. He rushes over to help his friend up. Thankfully, he makes it just in time. Good thing Minsk knows how to take a beating. Not only did Garrison get Gortash's Netherstone, but he got vengeance for Karlach. Hopefully now, she can rest in peace. The only Netherstone that was left was Orin's. Garrison just needs to find a way to her. While searching, they come across a secret crypt that houses Sarevok, the grandfather of Orin. He holds a key to get into Orin's hideout. Garrison challenges Sarevok and his groupies. You know, for someone as big and scary as him, Sarevok was put down fairly easily. He did manage to get in a couple lucky crits on Garrison, but thankfully he was able to withstand the hits. For his victory, Garrison takes the medallion needed to enter Orin's lair. After some more searching, the party finds their way to Orin. Garrison got a bad feeling that there was an incoming ambush. Before he could advance, Halsin tells Garrison that he'll go up ahead and scout. Reluctantly, Garrison allows him to go on ahead first. Halsin sees a manifestation that seems to be guarding a gate that would lead further in. Feeling confident in his abilities and being in wild shape as a Myrmidon, he starts combat. As soon as the guard calls reinforcements, Halsin flies over to try and call for his own backup. Garrison is about to advance with Gale and Minsk when Garrison stops dead in his tracks. He witnesses another guard come up from behind Halsin and hit him hard enough that it sends him flying off the bridge and into the chasm below. Garrison's heart feels like it too has fallen into a deep chasm. He starts seeing only red as he rushes the enemy. He unleashes Hell's Fury on the gate guard and gives the murderous guard the same treatment she doled out on Halsin by tossing her off the bridge too. With the gate guard gone, the other guards start to disappear. Garrison drops to his knees, mourning the loss of his recent partner. This is short-lived as Garrison's rage has not quelled. He rushes past the gate to where Orin is hiding. He arrives at a giant stone door. He presses the medallion he got from Sarevok against the door to get it to open. They arrive to see Lae'zel strapped to the table with Orin standing over her. Garrison wants nothing more than to rush down there and end her. However, Gale grabs his arm, stopping him. Gale asks him to just pause for a moment and asks him to trust him. He can't say no to him. Gale proceeds to turn invisible and makes his way down to where Orin is standing. He takes a deep breath in before unleashing a Thunderwave spell. The spell successfully pushes Orin right off into the edge into the chasm. She was suddenly no more. Garrison smiles, almost in disbelief that it actually worked. The rest of the party rushes in to help aid Gale against the remaining guards. The fight was soon over for good. Jaheira took majority of the damage, but she managed to stay alive. Orin's dagger laid beside the table next to Lae'zel. Embedded in the dagger was the final Netherstone. Garrison took it while the others freed Lae'zel. The Emperor shows up, telling the party that the time to strike is closing in fast. Garrison takes a moment to make some final preparations. The stage for the final battle is now set. After dealing with some annoying rats, the party sets out to confront the Netherbrain. They arrive at a morphic pool where the Netherbrain is hiding. Garrison uses the Netherstones, trying to subdue and control the massive brain. To his surprise, the stones were not working on it. The Emperor shows up to whisk the party away to safety. They regroup in the astral plane to discuss their course of action now. The Emperor takes Orpheus's power for himself and opens a portal to where the Netherbrain is now. However, letting the Emperor do that to Orpheus upsets the Githyanki. They attack the party as soon as they step out of the portal. Luckily this time, they were kind of pushovers. They enter the building up ahead, and inside were all the allies Garrison had made along the way. All of them looking towards the party to finally put an end to the so-called absolute. Garrison decides to take a page out of Gale's book. He uses invisibility to sneak past the horde up ahead. As they finally reach the brain stem, Gale stops Garrison one more time. He asks him to trust him one last time. Garrison knows what he's suggesting. Garrison still loves Gale, and he's willing to die by his side so that he doesn't have to be alone during this major sacrifice. As much as that pleases Gale to hear, he rejects Garrison's idea. Garrison's heart breaks once more. He says his final goodbyes to Gale with tears in his eyes. Gale then teleports them away to a safe distance. He bravely confronts the brain and then triggers the orb in his chest. The party witnesses the massive explosion in the sky. Garrison falls to his knees, overwhelmed with mixed emotions: joy, sadness, relief, and anger, just to name a few. Baldur's Gate is now free.
A little longer than a few minutes later.
Withers gathers the remaining party members to celebrate this momentous victory. Garrison sees a spectral form of Gale. He rushes over to him with the slightest of hope that, by some miracle, he actually survived. The spectral form is merely a messenger of sorts, there to let Garrison know that he, for a fact, did not survive and cannot be resurrected. Garrison should have known. The messenger had one last letter to deliver to Garrison. He instinctively goes to hug the spectral form, but of course, he just goes through it. The spectral form says how grateful Gale was to know Garrison, and then vanishes. Garrison reads the letter. It was such a touching letter that told Garrison that Gale was not afraid to die. It told him that Garrison deserves to be happy and to treasure the new life that's ahead of him. Garrison did not feel entirely better. He perhaps never will. But this letter definitely helps ease some of the pain. He then notices Tara, Gale's trustsome companion. Both of them share in the pain of their loss of Gale, but they figured he'd want them to be friends. Tara even suggests that Garrison come meet Gale's mother to tell her how wonderful her son was. He thinks that's a lovely idea and agrees. With that, the curtain falls on our story of the brave hero, Garrison. The hardcore Nuzlocke has been successfully completed. This was such a fun and amazing journey. There were a total of 3 deaths, which wasn't too bad. It could have been much worse. If you liked how I wrote this script, please let me know. I wanted to try something a little different than my achievement hunting video. Anyways, if you made it this far, thank you so much. I greatly appreciate your support. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already. Hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll catch you in the next video.